enforcement at all South Africa's ports of entry. And the ad hoc committee established to investigate allegations around criminal infiltration and corruption in the police will start its work this week. But first up, the news with Onele Nzinzi and our sports headlines with Msubudi Makura.
SABC News. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu, and greetings to our listeners. South Africa's Border Management Authority has rolled out new immigration entry and exit stamps at all ports of entry across South Africa, effective from the 1st of August. The updated stamps feature the Big Five and the BMA logo, aiming to prevent passport stamp tampering and enhance national security. The BMA Commissioner, Dr. Michael Masiapato, announced this while presenting the BMA first quarter report for the 2025-2026 financial year in Pretoria.
Each of the immigration officers had been allocated a specific stamp with its unique number linked to each officer in order to trace back should that particular stamp be found to have illegally stamped a particular passport with the intention to illegally facilitate illegal migration into the country. Whilst we started with the immigration-based stamps, we are now embarking on redesigning the new stamps for other specialized functions such as health, agriculture, as well as environment.
The Basotho Covenant Movement, Malatanaha, has denied claims that they seek to set up illegal military training camps in South Africa. The group spokesperson Abdul Malik Molabo says they want to reclaim land in parts of South Africa that belong to Lesotho. Last month, Lesotho's security chiefs claimed the group is recruiting and training Basotho youths for terrorism purposes. The group spokesperson Abdul Malik Molabo explains.
Our main objective is purely to reclaim the land which, according to the UN resolutions, have been granted to Basotholand, indigenous citizens. What is really happening is that our leader, Dr. Tshepo Polo, who is now being unlawfully incarcerated, went to the United Nations to submit a petition which suggested that there should be a special committee to be set up and then implement the process of the handing over of the land. But now, all of a sudden, he was arrested.
South Africa's Democratic Alliance in the Gauteng province has lambasted the shake-up in the administration, with some department heads facing reshuffle or removal. The Premier Mpanyaza Lesufi cited recent audit outcomes and non-performance impacting service delivery as a key reason for the reshuffle. The Gauteng Shadow MEC for Economic Development, Mike Moriarty, says Lesufi should have named the people involved.
We don't think that what he's announced yesterday is very substantial. The fact is that he's shuffling around people that have been there for some time. In terms of what I read in his statement, he's only made one substantive appointment, and that is in the Department of Economic Development.
Save the Children South Africa is concerned about toddlers being coerced into using drugs in community. A woman will appear in court today on charges of attempted murder and drug abuse after a video went viral showing her offering her 4-year-old son a smoke from a Mandrake's pipe. 3 others have also been charged in the case. Child protection lead at Save the Children, Margaret Zulu, explains.
This is not only a breach of the child's right to protection from harm, as outlined in the Children's Act, as you know, but also a reminder of the urgent need for stronger community vigilance, support system for vulnerable families, and also enforcement of child protection laws.
Lastly, South Korea started to dismantle loudspeakers placed along its borders and used to broadcast information and music to people living in the north. South Korea said the removal of the loudspeakers is a practical measure that can assist in easing inter-Korean tension without affecting the military readiness posture. The BBC's Jill McKee.
These loudspeakers were used by the previous government here in Seoul to blast anti-North Korean propaganda and South Korean pop music into the country for residents living along the border to hear. The broadcasts antagonise the North Korean leader, Kim Jong-un, who tightly controls his people's access to outside information. But South Korea's new president, Lee Jae-myung, is hoping to restart dialogue with the North, which stalled back in 2019.
Channel Africa News, I'm Onele Nzinzi.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
On the 200-meter event a week after her arrest, while Pauline Schwarteg becomes just the latest seed to drop at the Canadian Open. Details of these and other stories coming up at the bottom of the hour.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Well, thank you to Onele Nzinzi and Msibudi Makura with our news update and sports headlines. It is 12:06 Central African time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa on DSTV's audio bouquet channel 802, OpenView channel 628, and on www.channelafrica.co.za, as well as on the SABC Plus app, available on the Apple and Google Play stores.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
Join us in conversation on our social media platforms. That's on X, Instagram, and subscribe on YouTube at Channel Africa 1. On Facebook at Channel Africa, you can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406-9126 #Africa Updates, and let us know which country you're in. And if you have any stories that you'd like us to highlight or to focus on, send us an email. It is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or give us a call on +2711 714 4459.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
Today on #Africa Update Asks, the issue surrounding the burial of Zambia's former president Edgar Lungu is in a South African court today. Our question to you is, what are you hoping for regarding the court ruling? Or should the former president be laid to rest in South Africa or his body repatriated to Zambia? Let us know your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms.
Africa Update, your daily dose of African insights with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
South African Broadcasting Corporation, SABC Sport, brings you Chasing the Sun, a powerful 5-part documentary series about South Africa's national rugby team, the Springboks, telling the rousing tale of their path to redemption and ultimate World Cup glory in 2019. Starting on the 13th of July at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Tune in every Sunday for the highs, the heartache, and the heroics that made rugby history. I'll stream each chapter on SABC Plus anytime, anywhere. No subscription needed. Don't miss Chasing the Sun this Sunday at 7:30 p.m. Central African Time on SABC2. Be there when history shines.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
We go to one of our top stories, and we focus on Malawi, where basically the country, in terms of our guest who is on the line from Malawi, it is 12:09 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. Our two former Malawian presidents, Joyce Banda of the People's Party and Peter Mutharika, the leader of the main opposition Democratic Progressive Party, separately launched their electoral campaign on Sunday for the September 16th general election. Banda, who launched her campaign in the central town of Nchewu, pledged to prioritize youth empowerment and job creation. Mutharika served as president from 2014 to 2020, when his re-election was annulled by the courts due to irregularities, vowed to rescue the country from political and economic hardship. And for more on this story, we are joined on the line by political analyst at the University of Malawi, Ernest Tindwa. Ernest, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Afternoon. Thank you for having me.
Now, Ernest, what do you make of the former presidents throwing their hats in the ring?
Basically, you would say he's been given a leeway by the performance of the incumbent administration. Certainly, most Malawians are of the view that the country has not been managed well, especially the economy. Malawians do understand there has been a problem globally in terms of the economy, but here in Malawi, I think the effect is much far-reaching because generally the population is poor, and with the underperforming economy, the most hit have been the poor, and they are the majority. So it is really hard for Malawians, and Muntariga has seen an opportunity. Had the incumbent administration performed to the expectations of most Malawians, even if he had met just half of what was pledged in 2020, I don't think Muntariga would have the energy. But I think Muntariga is seeing a leeway because the economy has underperformed in most areas. Corruption, public services haven't improved, and therefore there is widespread discontent, and the Muntariga want to exploit that.
What do the citizens of Malawi believe that these former presidents would make a difference? Let's go back to their tenures as the leaders of the country.
I think the general view in Malawi is that they don't really have a better choice. That's the general view, and unfortunately, parties with a chance to win an election have been reduced to two. It's either MCP, led by Lazarus Chakwera, or DPP, led by Peter Muntariga. Looking at the record for Muntariga 2014 to 2019, it wasn't good. The reason perhaps maybe he was voted out of power. But again, the incumbent administration has underperformed. And really, it's a question of which one is the better devil, if I may put it that way. That is the state or the nature of the elections in Malawi this year. It's a question of which one is the better devil. It will not be an approval of Muntariga. It will be much more of a rejection of the incumbent administration should Muntariga win. Much more, as I said, of a rejection of Chakwera than an approval for Muntariga.
Now, how important is the youth vote in these elections?
We have talked so much about the youth vote in Malawi in recent electoral cycles, particularly when we have seen entry into the presidential race of candidates who have generally been viewed as the youth. Generally in Malawi, we define the youth as those that are aged 35 or below. But even those that are aged 45, 50 and below, in political terms, are generally regarded as the youth. They connect, when it's time for campaign, they connect very well with the youth. But surveys have suggested that there is no strong correlation between the youth and the voting preference. Actually, the surveys are showing that most Malawians respect wisdom from the elders than from the youth. So there has been no scientific data per se to suggest the youth would generally vote for the youthful candidate. There has been no that. The survey, on the contrary, are suggesting that the youth have faith in elders as leaders.
And just in wrapping up, do you expect a peaceful election, just judging by the current political climate in the country?
I think it will depend on how the incumbent administration manages security agencies. Generally in Malawi, security agencies are at the mercy of the incumbent administration. Each successful administration since reintroduction of plural politics in 1994 has tended to manipulate security agencies to its advantage. And this time around, it's no different. Recent skirmishes between competing parties suggest a confrontation will be
the defining character of these elections. So unless the incumbent administration perhaps pays more attention to national interest, should party interest override national interest, expect very violent elections in Malawi.
Well, Ernst, thank you so much for your time on Africa Update. We are going to leave it there for today.
Welcome, welcome.
That's Ernest Tindwa, political analyst at the University of Malawi, joining us on the line. It is 16 after 12 Central African time.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo on Channel Africa.
The North Gauteng High Court in Pretoria in South Africa is today hearing a legal dispute between the Zambian government and the family of the late President Edgar Chagwa Lungu regarding his burial arrangements. Now, President Lungu, who passed away on June the 5th in a South African hospital after battling cancer, is at the center of a controversy fueled by a long-standing feud with his successor, President Hakainde Hichilema. The family claims Lungu had expressed wishes for Hichilema not to attend his funeral, leading the government to seek a court interdict to stop the burial plans in South Africa. Our Channel Africa's reporter Michael Mbewe joins us live from Pretoria, the capital city of South Africa, to give us the latest. Michael, good afternoon, and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Good afternoon, Lulu. Good afternoon to our listeners in the continent of Africa. I'm struggling a bit to hear you, but we can go on with the interview. Yes, we are coming to you live from the Gauteng North High Court in South Africa's capital of Pretoria, where a matter between the government of Zambia and family is being heard here, Lulu.
Now, Michael, we can hear you quite clearly. So, give us the latest update on the court proceedings. Have the proceedings started? What's the situation there?
Lulu, so the court proceedings began this morning at 10 a.m. We saw the family of Edgar Lungu, led by his widow and his children, but also we've seen the Zambian Attorney General Lulu Gaboo, who is the one who tabled this court case to the South African High Court. We have also seen a lot of officials accompanying the delegation of Zambia. The court is packed to full capacity with people from South Africa, from Zambia, who wants to hear, how will this matter be settled, Lulu.
We've seen previous matters when it comes to a former president being laid to rest. We'll give an example with Zimbabwe and the late former president Mugabe. There was a bit of a scuffle there, a back and forth between government and the families, but eventually there was agreement between both parties in terms of the family and the Zimbabwe government. This is totally unprecedented. And, what are people on the ground hoping will happen with regards to this decision?
Lulu, I'm struggling a bit to hear you, but let me just summarize. I heard you speaking about comparing this feud with the Zimbabwean president's feud. Well, just to break it down, this comes after South African court halted plans to bury former Zambian President Edgar Lungu at a private ceremony just as it was about to start. So the news was only announced to mourners in a church in South Africa after a funeral mass had already finished. This is the latest twist in a row between the government and Lungu's family over his burial after the family opted for a private ceremony in South Africa rather than a full state funeral at home. The Zambian government filed an urgent case in the Pretorian High Court seeking to stop the burial planned by his family through its Attorney General, Lulu Gaboo. So the Pretoria Court gave Zambian Attorney General Gaboo until 4th July to submit his amended notice of motion in support of Lungu's repatriation to Zambia, while his family had until 11 July to file these opposing papers. So this matter is being heard as a special motion on the 4th of August, which is today, and then the cost of this urgent application will also be determined then. But also, the dispute follows a long-standing ongoing feud between Lungu and his successor, President Hakainde Hichilema, with Lungu's family saying he had indicated that Hichilema should not attend his funeral following Lungu's death in South Africa. The family wanted to be in charge of the funeral arrangements, including the repatriation of his body, but the Zambian authorities sought to take control. So the government and his family later agreed he would have a state funeral before relations broke down over the precise arrangements, prompting the family to opt for a burial in South Africa. So President Hichilema has since argued that Lungu, as a former president, belongs to the nation of Zambia and should be buried in the country. So the Zambian government argues that personal wishes should not override the greater public interest, citing the case of founding president Kenneth Kaunda in 2021, where the family said he wanted to be laid to rest next to his wife and not at the site designated by the government. However, the government went ahead and buried Kaunda at Embassy Memorial Park in Lusaka. So the current draw of Lungu's burial underscores the tense relationship between him and his successor, which played out in life and continues even in death, when Lungu's president Hichilema was locked up for over 100 days on treason charges after Hichilema's motorcade allegedly refused to give way for him. So that's where we are today, Lulu.
It's a very interesting one. Just in wrapping up, Michael, how long of a process are we looking towards in terms of the court case? Just give us a briefing on how long this proceeding will take and when decisions are expected to be made.
Hello, Lulu.
All right, Michael, we are going to leave it there because of a connection issue. Thank you so much for joining us from Pretoria. That is where the court case is underway between the Zambian government and Edgar Lungu. The family are fighting for the burial of the former president to take place in South Africa, whereas the Zambian government wants the former president to be accorded the burials, the rights of any former president of their country. Michael Mbewe, Channel Africa's reporter on the ground there in Pretoria at the North Gauteng High Court.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
The Progressive Forces of South Africa is holding a picket outside the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria today. The court is hearing a case about where the former Zambia's President Edgar Lungu will be buried. Lungu died in South Africa on June the 5th, and there is a dispute between his family and the Zambian government, as you've just heard, as I was speaking to our reporter Michael, who is at the court there. Now, joining us is Progressive Forces National Organizer Bonang Sipulwane to explain why the group is protesting the possibility of Lungu being buried in South Africa. Bonang, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Thank you, Lulu. Thank you for having me and good afternoon to your listeners.
Bonang, tell us what yes, I can. Tell us what your concerns are with regards to the possibility that a former head of state of Zambia, Edgar Lungu, may be buried here, depending on what the court decision is.
Thank you very much. As a South African, we have a long history that is still outstanding in regard with the land claims. And the people who were previously dislocated their land, they used the grave as an instrument to claim the land. So we cannot have a proceedings where now people from other countries, especially in African countries, they come and they get buried in South Africa, because with that being said, it means that as the descendants of Lungu in the future, they have a right to claim the land in South Africa. That is number one. Number two, we are in support of the Zambian government that the former president of Zambia must be taken home and be buried at home. Mr. Lungu was not just an ordinary citizen. He had a constitutional where he was a servant of the Zambians. The Zambians deserve to mourn their person and be buried. And then we can also look at the fact that we are Africans. People like kings, people like presidents are not just ordinary presidents. They should be buried where the umbilical cord have fallen, so that we do not confuse our ancestors as Africans.
Now, how do you respond to potential criticism that the progressive forces protest might be seen as interfering with the private family matters of the deceased, or with the diplomatic relations between South Africa and Zambia?
Mr. Lungu was not a private citizen. He doesn't belong to the Lungus. He belongs to the Zambians. So we cannot now say we are interfering with the private matter of the Lungus family. As I believe that for the 7 years that he was serving the Zambians, the Lungus understood very well that that is the servant of the Zambian people.
Bonang, are you still there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
I
great.
don't know if maybe you have heard my answer.
Yes, we did get, we got the gist of it. Now, in terms of, your messaging to the courts, what are you hoping the courts will take away from this, if anything, especially with the picket and that is happening out there? What outcome does the progressive forces of South Africa hope to see from this court hearing? You've already made that clear that the late former president Edgar Lungu should be repatriated. And, what sort of reaction are you getting on the ground?
I just came back from a commitment now, but from what I heard, I believe that the court is in favor of what the Zambian government is asking for, to take their body to Zambia.
And Bonang, just for interest's sake, say the courts decide that the family have the right to bury their family member. What then?
As a civil movement, we wouldn't have any powers to overrule what the court has decided. But we would like the court to consider the fact for both nations, South Africa and also for the Zambians, because I can guarantee you many Zambians have contacted us since the press briefing that they do want to bury their person in Zambia.
Just for interest's sake, Bonang, also let's go back to the future claims possibility of descendants of the Lungu family. This is a very interesting, you touched on it, but we didn't go into it. But I'd like us now to sort of go into it and just get understanding, because historically, this is going to be, it is a historic matter. It is going to be recorded in the history books, and anyone who would deny this would be in a different page compared to everyone else. Do you think that this could even be a possibility of Lungu descendants, whether 50 years from now or 100 years from now, using this case as, to claim land in South Africa?
Yes.
How do you get to that point?
Okay. I don't know if you follow the current news, especially when coming to land claims.
Yes,
like
with the land claims,
Bonang,
the land claims issue is it's there, it's out there, everybody knows about it. There are so many families who are waiting to hear about their claims and so on. They have to bring in proof, they have to bring a documentation. With the families that don't have documentations,
they lose the graves.
Sometimes do they lose the graves?
The families that do not have the documentation, they go and point out the graves of their ancestors, whether it's in the farms, whether it's in the mountains. And saying this as Bonang, because we do have similar situations in regards with the Tabatasa Polani in Limpopo. We do not have documentation, but because we knew where our great-grandparents are, we used the graves.
You've just opened a can of worms, and I think we need to make time to have this now particular discussion in terms of focusing on this. And we are going to have to leave it there for today, but thank you so much for joining us on Africa Update. That is Progressive Forces of South Africa's national organizer, Bonang Sipulwane, and she is joining us from outside the Gauteng High Court in Pretoria, where the court case between the Zambia's former president Edgar Lungu's family and the government of Zambia with regards to his burial, where this should happen. It goes to our question today as well, where we are asking you what your thoughts are with regards to the outcomes, the possible outcomes. What are you hoping for regarding the court ruling? And should the former president be laid to rest in South Africa or his body repatriated to Zambia? Hashtag Africa Update. Let us know your thoughts and your views on all our social media platforms. On X, Instagram at Channel Africa 1, on Facebook at Channel Africa. You can also send us your comments and voice notes to +2763 as 406 9126. Hashtag Africa Update Asks. Our news headlines up next with Onelin Zinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective.
Thank you, Lulu. South Africa's Border Management Authority has rolled out new immigration entry and exit stamps at all ports of entry across South Africa, effective from the 1st of August. The Basotho Covenant Movement, Madalanaha, says they only hope to reclaim their land in parts of South Africa that belong to Lesotho. And South Korea has started to dismantle loudspeakers placed along its borders and used to broadcast information and music to people living in the north. Channel Africa News, I'm Onelin Zinzi.
SABC News. Headlines. The African Perspective. Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
And a very good afternoon from the sports desk. I am Musibu Dimakura with your latest sports news at the SAWA. So the Wheelchair Basketball World Governing Body, General Secretary Gabriel Zangafind, shared the IWBF's vision of using the 3x3 format to logistically accommodate countries who would struggle to manage 5x5 format. So he said the fast-paced format is aiming at opening a global stage to countries who are struggling to qualify for the big international competition due to their economic challenges. He lauds though the Federation on a job well done on the recent 3x3 format that was hosted by South Africa this past weekend.
From our side, we are finishing this event on a note of proudness and pride. What has been delivered here by our partners from Wheelchair Basketball South Africa and our team has been absolutely outstanding. As you say, it's the first ever World Championship that IWBF holds in Africa. And I think we've set a new bar in terms of event management.
Meanwhile, Wheelchair Basketball CEO of South Africa, that is Charles Saunders, technically echoed on the team's performances as well as the unique nature of the 3x3 format held in the Northwest Province this past weekend.
So where we are at the moment, which is quite beautiful, is that smaller countries like Poland, we saw the situation with our African team Egypt that were winners over some big teams. This is exciting for us. The little country like Malaysia beat South Africa by 2 points. Now this is something which we've looked upon and saying, wow, Malaysia is never been on the massive international circuit when we talk about a 5-on-5 game, yet on the 3-on-3 format, they're producing.
On to some tennis news now. Wimbledon champion Iga Swiatek became the latest seed to fall at the Canadian Open as she suffered a surprise defeat by Clara Toussaint in the fourth round. Now, Denmark's Toussaint, ranked 19th in the world, avenged her fourth round loss to Swiatek at Wimbledon just last month with a 7-6, 6-3 victory over the second seed in Montreal. So Swiatek's exit comes also after top seed Coco Gauff, two-time defending champion Jessica Pegula, as well as the fourth seed Mira Andreeva were all knocked out in the early earlier rounds. Tucson, meanwhile, will face off with Australian Open champion Madison Keys of the USA in the quarterfinals of this ongoing tournament. Meanwhile, earlier on Sunday, four-time major winner Naomi Osaka lost only one game as she outplayed Latvia's Anastasia Sevastova to wrap up a 6-1, 6-love win in just 49 minutes. Now, Japan's Osaka, a winner twice at the US as well as the Australian Open tournaments, is seeking her first title since returning from maternity leave early in 2023. Now, the 27-year-old parted company with her former coach Patrick Moratoglu after less than a year and is now working with Poland's Tomasz Wystrowski, former coach of Igor Swiatek, who's of course will be hoping to help her win some tournaments just before the start of the US Open. And finally, American sprinter Sha'Carri Richardson missed out on the final of the 200-meter event at the U.S. Track and Field Championships in Oregon in the USA by 100ths of a second. Now, she finished fourth in her heat with a time of 22.56 seconds, which was 0.01 seconds behind Madison White, who took the last qualifying spot. Now, she received a bye to the World Championships in September in the 100-meter event as a defending champion, but now her hopes of competing in the 200-meter are all over. Richardson, the 100-meter silver medalist at the Paris Olympic Games in 2024, ends a turbulent week after being arrested over domestic violence allegations. The 25-year-old was detained last Sunday at a Seattle Tacoma International Airport following an altercation with her boyfriend and former Team USA star Christian Coleman. Well, that's a wrap from the sports desk at this hour. For any sports stories you'd like to share with us, our email address is newsroom@channelafrica.co.za or call us on +27 11714 4459. I'm back with more sports news in the next hour. For Channel Africa Sport, I am Mosibudi Makura.
Sports on Channel Africa. The African Perspective. Stella Longwe, Pamalonje.
Palitusokoma pano pamalonje kumvera nyimbo za mu Africa kusangalala kupeza moyo akuti kumva moyo kuti kuyenda bwino pano pamalonje ndiyetu apa tili ndikatswiri oyimba ameneyu ndikatswiri wa dziko la Malawi amene akukhala mdziko la South Africa ndipo amayimba amene akuti ndi Big Nick Malawi. Yatusani kuti kodi moyo wanu woyimba ukuyenda bwanji mu Johannesburg?
Moyo woyimba ukuyenda bwinobwino kwambiri chiliyonse chikutheka ndithu bwinobwino.
Ayi aziwoneka chiliyonse chikutheka mofa magrasi anu apa mwaka akuti kumenya yonse aziwoneka zoti azikutheka ndithu mu Johannesburg.
Malonje panthawi ya 6 koloko kufikira 7 koloko madzulo. Lowiruka ndi Stella Longwe. Business news on Channel Africa. The African Perspective.
Thank you. Good afternoon. With your business report, I am Chanduko Ligege. South Africa's International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says South African exports do not compete with nor pose a threat to U.S. producers. South Africa is responding to U.S. tariffs with a comprehensive plan. The 30% tariff recently announced by the Trump administration will take effect this Thursday. Lamola, accompanied by Trade, Industry and Competition Minister Park Stau, has given an update on South Africa's mitigation measures on the imposition of the tariff on the country's goods by the U.S.
The calculation of U.S.-South Africa trade deficit ignores the substantial U.S. trade surplus in services, as well as the complementary nature of the bilateral trade and investment relations between the two countries.
Meanwhile, the South African government has outlined the economic response to the looming 30% U.S. tariffs set to be imposed on South African exporters. International Relations Minister Ronald Lamola says the new tariff will only apply to goods that are already shipped on the 7th of this month.
The U.S. accounts for 7.5% of our global exports. Thus, we will continue to engage the U.S. with a view to conclude a deal that advances the interests of both countries.
Nurses in Nigeria say their government must not renege on its promise of delivering the host of allowances that they are demanding. This after the nurses suspended their 7-day warning strike after reaching an agreement with the government. Their union says they have been given clear timelines for improved pay, working conditions and recruitment, but they are not letting their guard down just yet. Correspondent Jonathan James.
Most importantly, they wanted certain increments in their overall salaries. They wanted some allowances introduced, allowances such as a suffering allowance, stuff that takes cognizance of what they go through. One of the allowances also they wanted was retention allowance.
The rising fuel prices and the economic hardship besetting Angola has sent widespread shockwaves across the country. Amnesty International has expressed grave concern over the deadly crackdown following last week's taxi driver strike. At least 29 people were killed, hundreds injured, and over 1,200 arrested amid protests against the economic headwinds. Global stocks rose, boosted by the prospect of lower interest rates after a weak U.S. job report prompted a dramatic reassessment of the rate outlook and ignited concern over the reliability of U.S. economic data. Friday's U.S. July non-farm payrolls report missed expectations and revised the figures for May and June sharply lower, sparking a sell-off on Wall Street and denting the dollar. The dollar edged up against a basket of 6 other major currencies. Let's have a look at financial indicators at this hour. $1 US in Nigeria is trading at 1,000 naira 532. In Botswana is 13 pula 41. Kenya the dollar is at 128 shilling 521. Zambia 22 kwacha 86. $1 in Brazil is at 5 real 54, Russia 79 rubles 87, India 87 rupee 18, China 7 yuan 19, South Africa 18 rand 4 cents. $1 is trading at 75 pence to the British pound and 86 to the euro. Looking at commodities, gold is at $3,360, platinum at $1,318 per ounce. The price of Brent crude oil at $68.74 a barrel. For any business stories you'd like to share with us, please send us an email to newsroom@channelafrica.co.za, or you can call us on +27 11 714 4459. For Channel Africa Business, I am Chanduko Ligege.
Business news on Channel Africa. The African perspective. Get Channel Africa on DSTV Audio Bouquet. Channel 802. Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo. 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
It is 12:42 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The Border Management Authority unveiled new security measures to boost traveller verification and law enforcement at all South Africa's ports of entry. BMA says it is part of the renewed push to enhance border security operations. Now, the extended measures will cover 4 critical areas, including immigration, agriculture, health and environment. BMA Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato also rolled out new immigration entry and exit stamps at all ports of entry across South Africa, effective from the 1st of August. He announced this during a media briefing of their first quarter report for the 2025-2026 financial year in Pretoria. Nonhlanhla Njingila has more.
The Border Management Authority says for the period between 1 April and 30 June, agricultural biosecurity specialists proceeded 38,000 consignment of agricultural goods through 26 major commercial ports. It says this was to ensure full compliance with safety and quality assurance standards. BMA Commissioner Dr. Michael Masiapato highlighted measures to ensure compliance when it comes to safeguarding the country's fauna and flora.
For the smooth facilitation of plants as well as their products at the ports of entry, importers as well as exporters are required to present both an import permit issued by the Department of Agriculture as well as the phytosanitary certificate issued by the country of origin with full compliance to the South African import conditions.
BMA reports that more than 8 million passengers entered and left South Africa for the first quarter of the 2025-2026 financial year. Masiapato says travelers entering or departing the country must have a valid machine-readable passport with at least 2 completely unused pages, excluding the last page, which must remain blank. Passports without free pages are considered full, and travelers won't be accepted for entry or further travel, he says.
It has been noted that many travelers arrive at the ports with only one available page remaining, often mistakenly offering the last page for stamping. Such travelers should note that immigration officers are not permitted to stamp the last page of the passport, as is the case in all other jurisdictions across the various parts of the world. However, for a South African citizen returning home with no free page, entry will be allowed, but such traveler will be advised to renew their passport.
Dr. Masiapato says a total of more than 9,000 individuals were intercepted, apprehended, and deported for attempting to enter the country illegally.
Of these 9,954 persons, 5,826 did not have documents at all. 2,127 were inadmissible, mainly for many reasons, either because they carried a fraudulent visa, or probably they had a passport that did not meet the requirement, or they did not have a yellow fever certificate. And of course, 2,000 of those were considered undesirable, either because they previously overstayed in the country, or probably or they did any other thing before that made them not to be admitted into the country.
BMA introduced new immigration entry and exit stamps at all South African ports of entry, effective from the 1st of August. Masiapato says this is to prevent passport stamp tampering and strengthen national security.
Each of the immigration officers had been allocated a specific stamp with its unique number linked to each officer in order to trace back should that particular stamp be found to have illegally stamped a particular passport with the intention to illegally facilitate illegal migration into the country. Whilst we started with the immigration-based stamps, we are now embarking on redesigning the new stamps for other specialized functions such as health, agriculture, as well as environment.
According to Masiapato, they are also clamping down on the import of counterfeit goods. He says 32 bales of counterfeit clothing and 201 pairs of counterfeit footwear with an estimated value of 1.1 million rand were seized. Nonhlanhla Njengela for SABC News, Pretoria.
Africa Update on Channel Africa.
It is 12:47 Central African Time, and we're coming to you live from Johannesburg in South Africa. The South African Parliament has confirmed that the ad hoc committee established to investigate allegations made by the KwaZulu-Natal Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi, around criminal infiltration and corruption in the police will start its work this week. Mkhwanazi implicated senior police members, including the police minister, Senzo Mchunu, of breaching national security by colluding with criminal syndicates. Following these allegations, Parliament resolved to establish an ad hoc committee to investigate them within a period of 90 days. Mchunu has been placed on special leave. Abongwe Gobokan has more.
The resolution of the National Assembly for the formation of an ad hoc committee has been based on the recommendations of the two joint Portfolio Committee of Police and the Portfolio Committee on Justice and Constitutional Development. They adopted a report recommending to the House that a temporal committee should be established to consider allegations pronounced by Mkhwanazi. The House adopted the recommendations and also set up the terms of reference for the work of the committee. Among other terms of reference is that the committee investigate the alleged decision by Police Minister Senzo Mchunu to disband the KwaZulu-Natal Political Killings Task Team. Head of the Communications in Parliament, Mulotho Muthapo, said the committee is expected to work against the clock.
So this committee is supposed to report by no later but than the 31st of October 2025. So they've got about 3 months with within which to undertake this investigation into the allegations made by Lieutenant General Ntlam Konazi. And because of the tight time frames within which they have to work, they have to hit the ground running. So it is expected that by next week, the committee will have its first meeting, elect the chairperson that will chair the proceedings, and begin with his work.
All parties in parliament will be proportionally represented on the ad hoc committee. The ANC consists of its chief whip, Dumiseni Nduli, Kusela Sangoni, Molapi, Likhanyane, and Xola Ngola. The DA will have Ian Cameron and Glenys Breitenbach. Sibonelo Nomvalo and David Skosana will be representing the MK party. The AFF will be represented by its leader Julius Malema, and the IFP and PA will be represented by Manga Kamcwango and Ashley Souls respectively, while the Freedom Front Plus has deployed voter vessels. Parliament says no decision has been taken yet about whether the findings of its investigation on the allegations made by Mkhwanazi will form part or not in the Madlanga Commission of Inquiry. Muloto again.
No, it may be shared, but that will be the decision of the National Assembly. You will know that in terms of the work that the Judicial Commission of Inquiry will be doing, they're supposed to submit their reports. But to an extent that if there is a need to assist with that, that is a decision that the institution will take.
And that was the spokesperson for the South African Parliament, Moloto Mutapo, ending that report by Abongwe Kobokana.
Mix Vibration sur Channel Africa.
C'est notre invitée du jour, la belle Aïna Mwenze. Elle est là, certaines l'appellent Boss Lady.
Bonjour Monsieur Jolino.
Parlez-nous un tout petit peu de vous.
Je m'appelle Boss Lady Aïna. Je mets l'accent sur le nom de Boss Lady parce que je mérite cela après le travail fait. Et c'est une rémunération en titre de la personne que je suis devenue aujourd'hui. Épouse et une mère de 4 garçons. Et voilà ce que je peux dire pour l'instant.
Et vous vous êtes lancé dans le business, comment c'est venu?
En tant que mère et se retrouvant dans les pays étrangers, particulièrement en Afrique du Sud, je me disais que laisser les enfants sur la charge des travailleurs ou d'une bonne, ça serait pas très intéressant. Je me suis dit, bon, je dois essayer de m'organiser et trouver un emploi que je peux faire.
Mix Vibration, tous les dimanches de 18h à 19h, temps universel.
Africa Update with Lulu Gaboo, 12 to 1 p.m. Central African Time.
The Basotho Covenant Movement, Malatanaha, is denying allegations of setting up illegal military training camps in South Africa. Last night, Lesotho's security chiefs claimed the group is recruiting and training Basotho youth for terrorism purposes. We are now joined by Abdul Malik Mulapo, the group spokesperson, to respond to these allegations and shed more light on the group's activities. Abdul Malik, good afternoon and thank you for joining us on Africa Update.
Hey, how are you, Madam Lulu? I'm fine, my sister. What about you, please?
I'm very well, thank you. And, as a citizen of South Africa, just when the news broke of this alleged recruiting and terrorism group that is training Basotho youth, just briefly clarify the primary objectives of the Malatanaha group, particularly regarding your campaign for land reclamation and how you respond to these accusations that your activities involve terrorism or illegal military activities.
This whole fiasco really started in Parliament. Dr. Tsepodipolo, who is the leader of Basotho Covenant Movement, when he was campaigning for elections, for 2022 national elections, amongst his manifesto items, there was one item whereby he actually indicated that he's going to propose that the government of Lesotho reclaims the occupied land. And our constitution, which is the Lesotho, the country's constitution, chapter subsection, Chapter 1, Section 1, Subsection 2 states that the territory of Lesotho shall comprise all the areas that immediately before 4th of October 1966 were comprised in the former colony of Basutoland, together with such other areas as may from time to time be declared by an act of parliament to form part of Lesotho. This is the subsection that he quoted when he was proposing motion number 8 of March 2023. Now, his problem really lies in the fact that he actually accessed parliament through PR, which is proportional representation. He is the only BCM member in parliament out of a total of 120 members. So he is up against 119 people in parliament.
Now, because of time, I'm going to have to push you there. In terms of looking at Tsepo Dipolo's arrest and the charges, that he's facing or he's faced sedition and incitement. What is the relationship between yourselves and Malata? What is the relationship between Malata Naha and Tsepo Dipolo? And, do you support his actions or statements? Is this what you are all hoping for?
We support him 100%, but the problem is the government is actually fabricating, these illegal allegations, unlawful allegations where they claim that he is actually recruiting people in a farm somewhere. This is a blue lie. It's extremely embarrassing. We have no connection whatsoever with people. In fact, even the commissioner of police in South Africa actually made a statement that they have searched everywhere in the 9 provinces. None is they haven't found such a place in South Africa.
Have you engaged with the South African authorities just to clarify your group's activities? And what are your group's activities?
We are just a political movement with one member in parliament who submitted a petition in New York Security Council claiming back that, in fact, this is according to UN Resolution 1654, item number 3, which says a special committee will be appointed to facilitate this return of land to Basutoland, the indigenous citizens. That is all. We have in this cold weather. Who can be training for anything in this extremely cold weather? With what? To attack who? It doesn't really make sense. The government is incompetent and it is weak because now it is failing to deliver its promises, and now they are looking for reasons to destroy the good character of Dr. Tsepo Dipolo, because now he is actually gaining momentum. And people now like him because now he wants to do what is really in the heart of many people. Because we are really suffering. The country is poor, the economy is weak, and we feel that it is better if in fact, even the South Africans are also contributing, because what they are doing now, they are persecuting our people here. They're chasing them out of, if they come, they see them in clinics. Sometimes we have roadblocks, their passports are torn up. And they are arrested, and sometimes they end up even dying without having any food in prison.
Now, Abdul Malik,
really a shame.
Just as we wrap up, 10 seconds, just the legal and diplomatic steps that your group is taking to pursue your land reclamation goals. Just 10 seconds. We have run out of time.
No, we are taking the avenue of going over this process through the UN resolution and even with the guidelines from the UN Security Council. Nothing more, nothing less. That is the only avenue. We don't need any. We are suffering. We are hungry. Who can even promote any insurgency? Will be it will have negative repercussions for both Lesotho and South Africa. We cannot associate ourselves with such activities.
Thank you for joining us on Africa Update. We'll leave it there for today. That is Basotho Covenant Movement Malata Naha Public Relations Officer Abdul Malik Molapo ending that discussion. And it is a happy Monday to Matseko. of the Upside team. And, happy Monday. How's the weekend?
Happy Monday.
Yeah.
The weekend was fabulous. We're really excited to be back in studio this afternoon. So we'll keep it pithy. We've got a minute to go. On the Upside, coming through, a lot of thought-provoking conversation. We're going to start by looking at new research that actually reveals the pressure behind South African women. The pressure to be excellent, the pressure to perform, the pressure to be this, the pressure to be that.
The superwoman pressure.
The superwoman pressure. I like that term. So that's exactly what we're going to be looking at in the first hour. And then in the golden hour of our show, that's just after 2, we're going to be talking about Property Point investment of 26 million South African rands that is going to benefit young people in the job space. So 26 million rand, we're looking here at just a little under 1.5 million US dollars. So it's quite a huge investment. So we're going to unpack that, and then let's keep the last hour a mystery. Please tune in between 1 and 4.
And we all know we love mysteries, don't we? Something to look forward to on the Upside with Matseko Musito and Tebogo Likuleni. For myself, Lulu Gaboo, and the Africa Update team, it's been a good one. Continue with us on our social media platforms, and it's goodbye from us. Let's do this again tomorrow. Thank you to our producer, Tracy Bumgard, our technical operator, Mondli Mtambo, and social media, Sfiso Hlope. Bye-bye. Let's do this again tomorrow. Bye-bye.
We are on Open Views Audio Bouquet, Channel 628. SABC News, the African perspective.